Great, we are visible.
Okay.
5 more minutes and we are starting. Okay.
We are live. Viraj,
Huh?
we should
Hmm?
start with the introduction.
Yeah, should I start?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So, good evening, everyone. We are gathered here to know about profile building on LinkedIn. And we have Shreya Pattar with us over here. Hello, Shreya. Good evening from
Hi, Vinod.
IST. And my name is Virat Sadle. I am giving my mic to Sonali now, and she'll introduce Shreya. Yeah.
Hi, Shreya. I'm
Hi, Sonali.
Sonali. We have Shreya Pattar. Shreya is a student, entrepreneur, and a content writer with expertise in digital marketing and brand building. Shreya's passion for writing can be seen in every piece of content she creates. On LinkedIn, she has built a following of 40,000 plus, and similarly helps her clients build a successful personal brand. Shreya also founded her startup, 2Z, to make the freelancer and client work process seamless. She is also currently a student of English and philosophy at Trinity College, Dublin, Ireland. So now I hand over the mic to Shreya, and thank you, Shreya, for coming.
Thank you so much, Sonali, for the introduction. So, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here today on a Sunday evening. And first of all, shout out to LinkedIn Local Anand for inviting me. So, this is their inaugural event, and this is the first of the many webinars they will be hosting. So thank you so much for being here. And today I just want to talk about LinkedIn, how you can build a good LinkedIn profile, and all the many opportunities that you can get through LinkedIn, how you can get them, how you can make LinkedIn work for you and on your side, and just whatever you want, how LinkedIn can help you achieve that and get closer to that. So if you have any questions, you can keep dropping them in the live chat on YouTube, which is just down below the video. And that's all. So let's get started. So okay, so one more thing, just before we uh, keep going, I'll introduce and myself, and I'll give you the session, and I'll talk about LinkedIn. And at the end of the session, around 15 to 20 minutes, we'll have a live Q&A. So whatever questions you have, you can put them again in the chat box, and I'll answer them towards the end of the webinar. So if that all sounds good, let's get started. So first things first, I want to introduce myself. Who am I, and why am I giving this session? So I'm Shreya Pattar. I am a student. I am a content writer and entrepreneur, and I am very active on LinkedIn. So I started posting on LinkedIn around almost like 18 months ago, and in those past few months, I have really been into it. I have really put out a content and explored LinkedIn and seen how it can work for me. So normally LinkedIn is seen as a platform which is for, like a resume. So you just update all your job profile, you update what you're doing, and then maybe you can contact some HRs and other founders and try to get a job for yourself. And that's all LinkedIn is seen as. But recently, we have found that LinkedIn is much more than a platform for just a resume or just a job. It's also a platform for many more opportunities. So, I'm going to share how I started my LinkedIn journey, what opportunities I got, and how you can get the same, or even more, of course. So, my first post on LinkedIn was actually about meeting the CEO, or I would say the former CEO of LinkedIn, Jeff Weiner, and I met him at an event on campus. And I just, I met him, I spoke to him, and I put out a short post explaining, just thanking him for the short meeting, and I put it out on LinkedIn. And I didn't really think much about it. It was just a normal, story. Like I have always loved writing, and I always love stories. So it was a short post that I put out. And the next day, my phone wouldn't stop vibrating. And there was just, so many notifications all from LinkedIn. And when I saw it, I found out that the post was viral and I got, some millions of views in just like 1 to 2 days. And there were a lot of likes. And, people were actually reading my content. But I think the best part about putting that post out was that so many people saw my content, and more than just the story or more than just me meeting the CEO, it was more about how I had written the piece, how I had shared my story, and how good my writing skills were. And because of that, I got my first 4 clients through that one post. That's when I realized that, LinkedIn has so much more to offer than just being something where you just update your profile and update your jobs. It's also some place where you can create a lot of content and where people will not care whether you're a student, whether you're already employed, whether where you live, or what city you belong to. People don't care about any of that. The most important thing that matters on LinkedIn is whether you have the skills to make it work for you. And I was able to do that through my content. I always put out posts that kind of, put it out there that I have a certain type of writing skill. I have a certain type of interest and passion for writing. And that could really, and when that was reflected through my posts, it became very apparent that I was a content creator or a content writer. So that's the thing about LinkedIn. People don't care about, what you do or who you are. At the end of the day, it's about your skill. And if you have the skill, you could be 15, you could be 18, you could be 35, you could be 65, whatever your age may be, you can still get a lot of opportunities from LinkedIn. So now let me just talk about the opportunities. So maybe not every one of you wants to be a freelancer, of course. You may have your own set of skills. Maybe you just want to look for a job. Maybe you just want an internship. Maybe you just want to create content and just build a network. And that's everything that you can do from this one platform called LinkedIn. So you have a profile and you have all your experiences. But then when you're creating content and when you're putting it out there, you meet a lot of people. They come up to you for opportunities such as, of course, internships and jobs, but more broader opportunities as well, such as, me doing this webinar now, or an interview, or a podcast, or, maybe inviting you for a guest lecture. So all these things also come up from being visible on a very public platform. And I think that if you have this opportunity and that if you're lucky enough to have a device and an internet connection and this app called LinkedIn on your phone, then I think you should definitely make the most of it and, really try to turn your life around and actually do that. So I want to first introduce you to LinkedIn as to how you can build a good LinkedIn profile. Because whenever you're talking about presenting yourself on any virtual platform, any public platform, it's always about showing and putting your best self forward. And in this case, the best self, or putting your best self forward, has a lot to do with how your profile looks overall. So I'm just going to share my screen. I'm going to show you my profile and talk about all the necessary elements that you need to update on your profile. And we'll do a little tiny workshop or something just so that you can make your own headline while we are on the video. So if you don't have your notebook or notepad yet, just get it out and take down some notes, and we can build your headline together. So I'll my screen. I hope everyone can see it once I share it. I just want to confirm if my screen is visible.
Yes, Shreya, it's visible.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so let's begin. So this is what your profile looks like. This is your LinkedIn profile. It has this very cool section where you can add everything about you in just a few lines and a few words. So these are the main elements of your profile. So let me introduce you to each one of them and show you how you can make an impact with each of these elements. So the first thing, of course, is your profile picture. This one. Because anybody who approaches you online may not have met you in real life, may not know you. And so the first impression you make is through your profile picture. Your profile picture should be something that, first of all, that's you. Don't use a picture of a cat or a bottle or a river or, just some random thing. Don't do that. Use your picture and just make sure it's visible to everyone. Make sure the settings are on and it's visible to the entire public. And make sure your face is well seen, your face is well lit, and smile. It's okay to smile. Just don't be too serious. Don't be too stern. Have a good, leave a good first impression. So this is your profile picture. Update it definitely. The second thing is your headline. So your headline is where you actually bring across exactly what you do, why someone should contact you, and what value you can provide. So if anybody looks at your profile, the end result has to be that they should understand exactly how you can help them and why they should contact you. So when it comes to my headline, I have included that I'm a copywriter and content writer, very straight and simple. I've included one of the positions I hold. That's I'm a LinkedIn campus editor. I have explained that I'm a student, so it's very clear that I'm not looking for a full-time opportunity or anything because I'm a student of literature and philosophy, and I have my hashtag. So my hashtag Shreya Writes is something that I use as a signature in all of my posts. So this is what I've added in the headline. Um, what the headline is good for is also when somebody searches particular keywords, your headline is what helps your profile pop up for those relevant keywords. So if someone is looking for a content writer, my profile will pop up because I have the word content writer in my headline. If someone has forgotten my profile and only remembers my hashtag, they can look up Shreya Writes here, and then my profile will pop up again because I have used the hashtag in my headline. The third most important thing is your banner. Again, for your banner, use something very strategic, something that really displays exactly what you do and what you're skilled at. So for me, I have a very clear CTA, but that's because I'm a freelance writer. So I have a CTA of getting awesome content, and what I help people do, that's build a brilliant brand presence, and some of the services I provide. Those are listed on the right side. But you don't have to go in for something so elaborate. When it comes to you being as an individual, and you don't have to, of course, you don't have to freelance, you don't have to um, you know get clients or get leads or have a CTA as such to provide. In that case, what you can do is you can include things like your favorite quote. You can include some images that resonate with what you do. So if you're a content writer, you can add some images of books or people writing in the background. So those, even though they're generic, they do convey exactly what you do. So very simple way of getting a banner instantly is to just go on Google and type something like content writer LinkedIn banner. And then you go to the images and you will find something that's definitely relevant for you. So something like this, maybe that conveys that you're a writer. This is very generic, of course, and then you can pick out something you like. So just Google your terms, and then you can, kind of figure out by adding LinkedIn banner and looking at the images. So that's a very simple way to build a banner. And now what I want you to do is I want you to build your headline, because your headline, of course, is very important, not only for getting your value across, but also for being found on LinkedIn through the keywords. So let's begin with that. So I'm going to give you a few hints, and you just have to fill in the blanks for yourself and then kind of combine it together to create a good headline. So the first thing, so for me, the first thing is I'm a copywriter and content writer. So just whatever role you have, if you're a graphic designer, if you're a web developer, if you're a video editor, um, if you are a startup owner, if you are an entrepreneur, just add that simple tag as the first line. So let's do it. Just whatever you do, whatever your role is, just add that as the first line right now, quickly. So I'll just give you a few seconds and you can, any role that you may have, just write it down. If you're a student, you can write down something you're interested in. So you can, if you are interested in, say, graphic designing or web development, you can write something like um, web develop, web development enthusiast or graphic designing enthusiast, things like that. You can type it out. So that's the first part of it. The second part of is a role you have. So if you are a student, I'm sure you must definitely be involved in some or the other way on your campus. So what you can do is you can include a role on as the second part of your headline. If you're a business person, you can include some of your skills or expertise here. So if you are an expert in certain things, suppose you're an expert in team management or you're an expert in in the agile process of working. So you can write something like expert in and then fill in that blank, or um, anything that conveys whatever you're especially skilled at. Just make that your second part of your headline. Now, the third thing is to mention what you do currently. So, if you are a student, this is very important for you. Make it very clear that you're a student. So, you can add something like engineering student, student of medicine, or maybe even be a bit creative and say future scientist or future doctor. And that will convey exactly that you are a student. If you are a professional, you can kind of skip this, or if you have been to a certain university, like if you're an IIM graduate, IIT graduate, you can add those in there because they do have a certain amount of value, and people will really have a good impression from those things. So you can write it as an alumni, you can write IIT alumni, that works as well. So that's something you can do as a professional. And finally, if you have a hashtag already, use that. Create a personalized hashtag and use it in your headline. If you don't have any hashtags so far, that's fine too. What you can do is you can just keep it on hold for now, and when you do create an hashtag, you can add it. So that's your complete headline. The first part is exactly what you do right now, or for students, it's what you're skilled at. And the second part is your expertise or your skills. And for students, the second part is whatever role you have in your university. The third part is what you do right now. So you can add your education here. If you're a student, make it very clear that you're a student. If you have graduated from a certain college, you can write over there that you are a graduate or an alumni from a certain college, and you can add your hashtag. If you don't have a hashtag yet, it's okay. You can keep this one on hold. And then once you do figure out your hashtag, you can add it in. So that's it. Your simple headline is ready. You can divide it with these standing line thingies, whatever they are called, or you can use slash or anything that if you want to use some bullet points or something, you can go ahead with that. Just play around with that the way you like. Headline is ready. Now I'm just going to scroll through different elements of your profile very quickly, very briefly, and you can update them accordingly. So the about section is again very important because after this part, the next thing anybody's going to see is the about section. Here, make sure you convey the value you provide. Very important. If you are a freelancer, especially, make sure you convey that very clearly. So the value you provide, your expertise, your experiences, what skills you have. So mention your skill set, any sort of CTA that you have, like any sort of something that makes you stand apart from everyone else. You can add that. If you're a freelancer, this is again important because there are so many freelancers, and you need to make sure that you stand out from everyone else. And have a good CTA. You can add something like your email ID, or just say DM me on LinkedIn for queries. So make sure people, once they've read it, people know exactly where they can contact you. And include all of your interests and hobbies. You can do that as well. So I have included that I like baking. I've included that I like photography and videography. So like that, you can add a lot of things, anything that you want. You can preferably keep updating this as in, you don't have to update it very often. Maybe once a year is good enough. And keep it generic so that it works well. One good thing would be to make it very much like a story, because it'll be fun to read, interesting to read, and people will really, read all through it. So make it a bit narrative if you can. Skimming through the rest, this is your experience section. This is where you add everything you do, everything you've done, and explain exactly what you do in those things. My suggestion is to use bullet points because that makes it very easy to read the entire text, and it also looks visually appealing. So make sure you use bullet points and just grab the attention of the reader instantly. The next thing is your education, especially if you're a student even now. Make sure you update this very well. Update all of your education section and exactly what you do, and any activities you've participated in, any contests, any competitions, anything you won, anything you volunteered for, include all of that here. And finally, you have a volunteer experience. So if you volunteered, again, you may have volunteered for something in university. So do update that. Try to keep it visually appealing again with either bullet points or having short, clear paragraphs and not having too many big chunks of text. And then these are some different things that you can get for your profile. Skills and endorsements. So this is just include all your skills. And if somebody has worked with you, or maybe your friends and colleagues who have, who have an idea of what you are good at, they can endorse you. So you can request your friends, your colleagues, your managers and bosses to endorse you. That's good. Recommendations are very helpful. Um, get recommendations from anybody and everybody you worked with. It's very, very helpful in the long run. This is basically a testimonial to what you do, who you are like as a professional. So definitely get recommendations. These recommendations you can also use if you have a personal website. You can add them on there as work testimonials. You can share it with future clients, with future for future job opportunities. You can have them with you, and yeah, so just definitely get recommendations. And what you could do is when you're asking for a recommendation, go ahead and offer to write them a recommendation as well. So it's just a win-win situation for both of you. So if your manager is giving you a recommendation, give them a recommendation as well as to what you liked about them being your manager. And we have a section for accomplishments. You can add those in. Any awards you got, languages you know, anything you've published, your grades and exam scores, and that's about it. So this is your entire LinkedIn profile. So now that we're done with the profile, I want to talk about the next thing. You have a good profile. So now what do? How do you make the most of it? How do you make sure that people are coming and seeing your profile? How do you increase that reach? How do you build the value of this stagnant page and make people so interested that they keep coming back to your page? And most importantly, how do you create real life opportunities from it? How do you go from an online profile to something that can actually make you money in your real life, or something that can actually get you opportunities and virtual events or real life events, and take it all offline? How do you do that? So the best way to do that is engagement. To engage with LinkedIn and be on LinkedIn, that is through creating content, engaging with other people's content, and just overall being active on LinkedIn. So I want to talk about what kind of posts you can create, and I'll share some tips and tricks for creating good LinkedIn posts. And you can start your content creation on LinkedIn. So I'm going to check my featured section and I'm going to refer to those posts. So the featured section is where you can add any important or any of your favorite posts. You can just add them to the featured section and they will show on the top of your profile. So what have I written about? So I have written about, so this is the first post where I met the CEO of LinkedIn. I have written about winning funding for my startup. I have written about content writing, meeting the Prime Minister of LinkedIn, about a fitness coach who made a lot of money, 24 lakhs in 24 hours. And if we see more, I have covered almost every aspect of my life that I could put out online. So I have put out, something about plagiarism, something about internships, something about my sister winning a lot of medals, um, strangers messaging me for help, some ridiculous rates I get from, prospects on LinkedIn. Some LinkedIn tips. Are you making these errors? Or how you can increase your engagement on LinkedIn, how you can make the most of LinkedIn. Again, some client stories, some experiences. So that's what I create on LinkedIn. And that's what you can do. You don't have to have, inspiring stories or motivational stories to put them out there. You just have to share your experiences, and that's it. That's all there is. Because what people like most is stories. People like reading stories. People like reading something new. So if you're sharing tips for, say, LinkedIn, suppose you're writing a post on 3 ways to build your LinkedIn profile, make sure you use your personal experiences in that post, because there are already many tips everywhere online. So why would anybody want to see your post? Why would anybody pick your post, and why would your post be unique when there's already so much out there on the similar lines? So that is again a question that your post should answer for people by making it personal, because your stories are your stories and my stories are mine. So nobody else has them. And because they are unique, you need to tap into that. You need to leverage that uniqueness and get it out there so that people can not only connect with your content, but also with you through one post. So, what I'll do is I'll share some, I'll open some of the posts and I'll show it to you. So, this is one of my starting posts. And one of my older posts, as you can see, there are a lot of hashtags that I've included. I have stopped doing that. But I just want to introduce you to like how a post is structured and how you also can structure the post. So I have an introductory line, and the first line is what captures the most attention and makes the reader decide whether they want to, actually read all of it. So always work on your first line extensively. Make sure it's very eye-grabbing, and it shouldn't be clickbaity. It should be click-worthy. So don't make it a clickbait. Don't, just use it for the heck of getting people to click on your post and read it. Instead, use it so that you are creating a suspense, you're creating an eagerness, a curiosity through that one line, and then people will read it. So my first line is that I was selected for an internship and now I'm not. And that really gives a question like, how did you get selected and why are you not selected anymore? And that's why somebody would read that post. And now I have introduced the whole storyline. So I have provided exactly what happened, where I went for the interview, what happened. I waited a long time, and then I called the receptionist and she didn't ask my name and she just said that I'm not selected. And how I felt, how I ranted to my dad, and then his reply was to move on. So that's the whole story of, me going from having an internship to not having one, and to my dad's solution that I should move on. And that's it. I think that's where, the main story is formed. But then there's a next step. Now I have to show what happened because I took my dad's advice. If my story was only until move on, it wouldn't have had that much of an impact. Because you need proof. Did that moving on help? Was the moving on a good decision? So then I continued and I wrote further that I moved on and I kept applying, and then I got an offer from another company. And I added a little bit of a humor by saying that everyone talks about moving on from relationships. So if you don't move on, how will you date again? And how will you find a new opportunity? So again, that's a bit of a humor that comes into it. And it's a complete story. And finally, I have my hashtag as well. That's like my signature in the end of the post, that this post is mine and it's my content. That's how you write a post. You write an opening that really attracts people and makes them want to click and read it. And then you build up the story, and then you finally give the big conclusion of, like the big bang of what happened and what you did. And if possible, if you got an advice or something, then make sure you continue the story forward to show that the advice worked. That's how you create a complete story, and that's how you create a good post. Now I'm going to go back to another post of mine. And in this post, I would like you to see the structure of the post and how clearly it's written and how it's arranged. So this post is about me being a premium content writer, that I'm a premium writer, that my charges are premium, and I say no a lot to a lot of prospects. So this post again, it begins with not with something that has curiosity as such, but with something that's a very stern, declaration that my content writing rates are premium. And there's a declaration I'm making, and the next reason why would somebody read it is because what makes me say that? What makes me say, or why am I putting that out there? Why does it matter that I'm a premium writer? Why should I post about it? And again, people are going to read it. In this post, notice something very clearly, that there is a lot of spacing between the lines, that the lines are very short, very crisp, that there is no fluff. Every word in this post has an important purpose, and there's nothing that you really that's just dragging the story for no reason. There are no hashtags. There are only 3 hashtags in the bottom, and then there's one mine, of course, the signature hashtag. There are no more hashtags. Everything is clearly aligned. Like, there are no emojis, there are no awkward sentence spaces, and this is what makes it look visually appealing. So when a post looks appealing, you really enjoy reading it. And the most important thing about an appealing post is that you can read it very, very, very quickly. So recently somebody messaged me that I take like 1 second to read your post, and that's why I enjoy it. And that's so true. I mean, of course, 1 second is an exaggeration, but the idea that my posts do not require a lot of time investment or effort or energy to read them is very important. So, if you are writing a post, make sure it's not too heavy on the eyes, or even in terms of the value it holds. Keep it simple and make it very precise and make it visually appealing. And I have this thing where I use a PS in the end. So this is something that I started doing and it worked well. So this has become my signature style. And everybody looks for the PS in my post. So like that, you can build your own signature style, maybe a unique hashtag, maybe a way you structure your posts, maybe the length of your post. Maybe instead of going full fledged, you can go in for shorter ones. So whatever kind of unique way of putting out content that makes people know that it's yours, even if your name is not associated with it. Um, that's important. And that's something that you build with time. So don't stress about that. But you will, once you keep putting out a lot of content, you will find out that it's actually going to work for you. And so now the question is like, myself. So now the question is that how do you post? Like, how do you know what to post about? And how often do you post? And how long before you get something out of it? So, my recommendation for that is to post at least 3 times a week, to post consistently for as long as you can, and even longer than you can, and give it at least 3 to 6 months to build a good profile on LinkedIn, to start getting engagement, and to start, getting leads or getting opportunities. So patience is very, very important on LinkedIn, as with any other profile. And it's just, it's just something that you have to keep putting in effort for, and you have to um, keep, you just have to keep going in with it. So don't give up very easily, and don't, question yourself too much. Don't keep editing posts too many times or struggle to figure out whether it's a good post or not. You won't know until you post it. So just write something, it, and forget about it, learn from it, and then write a new post after that. It's as simple as that. It'll work out for you only if you give it some time, effort, and patience. So that's about what kind of content you can create, basically anything about your life, how often are you supposed to post, at least 3 times a week, and how patient are you supposed to be, at least 6 months. Just give it that time, give it that effort and energy, and it will actually work out. And the next thing is, how can you increase your reach? So you're putting out content and everything, but how can you make sure that your content is getting good engagement? How do you get a good amount of views, likes, and shares? And how does that work out? So again, I'm going to share my screen with you. I'm going to share an article that I had written about this. It's on my website. You can of course check it out even after this webinar. So I'm just going to find that article. So my website is shreyapattar.com. You can check out all of my articles here. Just looking for the one. Okay, yeah, there it is. So I'm going to share some tips for getting engagement on your LinkedIn posts. First thing is to understand what engagement is. So engagement is when people engage with your post. So engaging is something like likes, comments, reshares, and direct messages that you get. Those are all engagements. Views are not engagement. Views are just the number of times your post has been seen by someone. But even after seeing it, have they engaged with it? That's a different question. So first understand what counts as engagement. Second thing is, now that you've understood what engagement is, don't focus on it. Don't focus on the engagement. Instead, focus on the content. Many times we think that, we want to create viral content. We want to create something that is instantly going to just go viral. But the thing is, you don't know what content is going to go viral, because viral, anything that's viral is because it connects with the readers in a different way. It provides value to them in a unique manner, and then it really stands out from everything else out there. And you don't know what connects with people. So what you can do is just put out a lot of content and realize that the more content you put out, the more the chances of it actually going viral. So put out a lot of content and don't focus on the engagement at all. Next is add value through your post by sharing meaningful stories. Don't preach. Don't go out there and just teach people what to do. Share your stories, share your experiences, and then share the lessons you got from them. If people like it, they'll use it. But don't try to, kind of be too preachy and try to get too much out there, because it really changes the way people see you. And I don't know, like, people don't really like, being taught things. People want to explore it themselves, and people just like stories. So share meaningful, valuable stories and make it appealing to the eyes. So as I shared some of my posts with you, there is spacing between the posts. There are bullet points when needed. There are no big paragraphs. There are not too many emojis. So there is a question in the chat why we should not use emojis. I recommend not using emojis because it tends to just distract you from reading. And you, of course, you can use emojis sometimes. You can use maybe 2 or 3 of them in a post, but don't try to, stuff them all in every sentence, and don't take away and distract people from your content by adding in emojis. If you decide to add in emojis, you can use them like maybe as bullet points. You can use them at the in the top line of the post, like, one emoji line, second emoji, just to give context. But don't stuff it in, and don't use it in the middle of sentences. I have seen so many people do that, but it's very distracting. So don't use too many emojis. Don't use too many hashtags. You might be tempted to, because you want to just get your content out there. But again, it's very distracting because hashtags are blue and they stand out and they clutter the post. Use them very conservatively, and if possible, use them in the end of the post. And you can check how I do it. At the end of the post, I have 3 consistent hashtags, so you can do something like that as well. And don't tag too many people. Please don't tag too many people. If people like your post, they will comment on it. If you're going to keep tagging the same people on every single post and tagging 50, 100 people at a time to get more engagement, it's not going to work. So just don't do that at all. And post quality content. Always, always, always make sure you're putting your best pieces out there. It can mean that you have to spend more time into creating a good piece of content. That's okay. Invest that amount of time, but put out good content and put out something that's useful for people, because that's again what they'll engage with. Some bonus tips that I've actually shared: create your own hashtag, of course. Mine is Shreya Writes. Um, Text posts have very good engagement. So if you have a good text post, you don't need to add images or videos. You can do it. Um, for context, like if you win an award or something, you can put an image. But other than that, try to avoid images. Or I mean, of course, unless you're a graphic designer and you're showing off images, that's fine. But other than that, try to avoid your images and engage with other people. How will people know you exist if you are not popping up anywhere? So engage with other people's posts, like it, share it, comment on it, send them personalized invites saying you liked their content, you liked their session, you liked their website, you liked their webinar, you liked, you liked their the testimonials that they received. Make it personalized and connect with people. And finally, again, please be patient. You have to be patient when it comes to anything at all that you want to achieve. With LinkedIn too, please be patient. And that closes how you can get amazing engagement on your LinkedIn posts. So I have a few things that I want to talk about just very briefly that were big questions in my previous webinars and even now. So first is about spammers. You get a lot of spammers on LinkedIn who send you messages for job opportunities, for freelancing opportunities. How do you know it's real? How do you know you can trust them? So the first thing is, if you are a service provider, don't end up paying someone to provide them services. So I have had someone message me about turning their handwritten books into digital copies, just basically by typing it out. And they said I need to pay them 3,500 rupees, and then they will send the material, and next month they will pay me 80,000 rupees. But why do I need to pay anyone if I am the service provider? So it's simple things like that. It's usually, it's very absurd actually. It's kind of common sense that if you are a service provider, you're not supposed to be paying anyone. So in that sense, be careful of spammers. And the next thing is, when it comes to job opportunities, you have to pay for, of course, your visa and things like that. In that way, check out the LinkedIn page of that company. Check out who the employees are. Message them, contact them, understand whether it's a real company, how do they work, and get any testimonials for the company. Do a web search. Most sometimes these companies may not even have a website. So do a web search, find the website, look, match the photos of the team members on the website compared to the people who messaged you. And that's how you kind of check whether this is a legit opportunity or not. And there's still maybe some, it may still lead up to some issues, but the best you can do is put in all your effort into making sure um, you're not in business with the wrong person. So be careful of that. And how to make your LinkedIn post different from those on Facebook and Instagram. So I think it's a very weird sense that you're not. This is not LinkedIn. This is not This is not Instagram. This is not Facebook. Why are you putting this content out there? But I think that those people haven't really understood the power of good content, because even on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram, Facebook and Instagram, there is so much good content. There is so many people who talk about so many interesting things, be it fitness, fashion, business, anything you talk about. People are actually talking really well about these things. So don't think too much about it. Just put out valuable content and, you know, keep it relevant to the platform. Keep it relevant to your business platform. Don't use certain words. Don't curse. Be professional, as they call it. And again, put your best self forward because that's where you're getting opportunities from. So that's something about LinkedIn. That's something about how you can create a good profile, how you can create good content, how you can get more engagement on your content, how to avoid spammers, and how to not clutter LinkedIn with poor content. And that's it. So now I'll finally answer all of your questions. I know there are a lot, so I'm just going to scroll through them, pick out a few of them, and answer them. And you can start asking your questions. So we'll have this session for like maybe 10 to 15 minutes, and I'll try to answer as many as I can. So I'm just going to scroll up and see. So the video will stay on YouTube after the session is over. And yes, it'll also come up on my website in a few days. So you can check the other ones out, and this one will be up in a few days as well. How to create your own hashtag? This is a question by Sagar and Ankush. So, how do you create your own hashtag? There is no particular tip or trick. You can just use something like Sagar creates, or um, content by Ankush. Something like that. That's very simple. You can even use your own name, Ankush Singh, hashtag Sagar Rahinj. You can use your own name. That's fine too. I would say don't think too much about it because it's just a hashtag. It doesn't really matter too much. I mean, come on, like consider mine, Shreya writes. It couldn't be simpler than that. So don't invest too much time because just like a company name, company name doesn't really matter. It's the value of the company. So don't obsess over it. If the name has to become big, it'll become big, but don't spend too much time on it. Sudeep is asking, can you tell us something about social selling index score present in LinkedIn? So the SSI score, the social selling index, is a score that LinkedIn provides you. You can check it for free online. You can just Google SSI LinkedIn, and it gives you a score based on your engagement, your network, your content creation, and such things. It's a good metric to kind of gauge your engagement and activity on LinkedIn, but it's not something great. I would say like it doesn't really have a lot of utility as such directly, but it's a good way of just gauging and a good metric to understand how you're doing with your profile. So check it out. Praveen is asking, what is CTA? CTA is call to action. It's call to action is something basically like getting somebody to take action, calling somebody to take action. So if I'm saying come and register for this webinar, that's me calling you to take an action of registering for the webinar. If I'm saying, after the session, you can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, that's a call to action. When your favorite YouTuber says that subscribe to my channel, that's a call to action. Calling somebody to engage and act upon whatever you're saying, that's a call to action. So that's something you should definitely add. Okay. Tabish has also suggestions on his headline. This does look like a good headline. Well done. Yeah. How to get endorsements as a beginner? Ankush, if you want to get endorsements again as a beginner, just focus on creating content first, and you will find out that people just reading your content, so many of them will go ahead and endorse you. Like I remember after my last webinar, so many of the people who watched the webinar, they sent me a personalized invite that they liked the webinar. So many of them created content from the webinar by making a summary post, and then they tagged me saying thanks for the webinar. So that's again, they created content and they endorsed me. So they endorsed me for public speaking, content writing, and such things. So it's not necessary that you have to work and get it from a client, but even by doing such things, and just when people see your work, they will want to endorse you. So just keep on putting content and getting your skills out there, and people will endorse you. Shreya is asking, does a banner ensure that we get visibility when one searches something related to us? I don't think banner has gets visibility in terms of when somebody searches for you, but it kind of just in a snapshot gives exactly what you do. So if you are a writer and you have something like books in your background as a banner, so even without reading your profile, I'll probably be able to gauge your interest in books or reading or writing. So it's just a good way to instantly, make sure people understand what your interests are, and that'll work out well. Fazil is asking a very good question. Kindly give a brief about writing about social issues on LinkedIn. Is it welcome or shouldn't, or I shouldn't do it if someone else? Okay. So I prefer not about social issues on LinkedIn, mainly because you cannot make everyone agree with your opinion. And I've noticed that, especially on any virtual platform, if you're not if your opinions are not matching with a large community, then they can pull you down, they can troll you, they can send out hate comments or whatever. The finance community, should I write more on that or generic? Write more on that, that's fine, whatever you think. uh, Post is, yes. A post is around 1300 characters, but you don't have to fit all of that in, just enough to make a good post. That's it. Even if that's in 2 lines, go ahead with that. What's the best way to secure freelance writing opportunities? Um, Again, creating a lot of content, because that brings inbound leads once people like your content. And again, it helps you make money, it helps you get clients, it helps you land webinars and sessions. So you can do all of that just by creating content. That's one simple thing you need to do. So that's all the questions. So thank you for everyone who asked questions. And then if there's anything else, of course, you can ask me on LinkedIn or Instagram or Twitter. Just search my name and it's all there. I'm on all platforms. I have a special announcement to make. Um, so this is something I have been working on for a while, and I'm going to be releasing it soon. So I'm working on an ebook for LinkedIn. So I'm going to be sharing some of my best LinkedIn posts, some of my most valuable LinkedIn posts in this ebook. And it's going to be helpful for you in terms of not only understanding freelancing, understanding LinkedIn, but also to understand how to create good LinkedIn posts and what makes a good LinkedIn post. So I will be sharing that ebook soon. All the details will be up on LinkedIn and on all other social media platforms. So if you are interested, you can go to my website and you can subscribe to my website. And as soon as the book is out, you will get the first email, and then you can purchase it instantly. So my website is shreyapattar.com. If you want to go and just subscribe, just put in your email. That's all there is. And as soon as my book is out, I will let you know. So that's all from me. And shout out again to LinkedIn Local Anand for having me here for this webinar. And shout out to all of you for sitting here for 1 hour on a Sunday evening and spending time with me. Thank you so much for that. And
Fortunate to have you here. And it was great to have a webinar. I hope that all the audience is grateful and satisfied with whatever knowledge you shared over here.
Thank you so much, Viraj.
Yeah. Sonali has to add something to it.
Yeah, just thank you, Shreya, and it was a wonderful session, and hope to see you soon.
Thanks, Sonali. See you again. Yeah.
Great, guys. You have been a great audience, and I guess we will now. Thank you so much,